It's 7:30 a.m. I've been up for a few minutes. That was a lot of sleep. Um, it was a good 12 hours. In a space where I was trying to stay awake. My head feels better. I'm gonna watch a vlog, have a smoothie, and then get to the other room and see if I can start listening. Actually, on second thought, it is only 7. That doesn't change how much sleep I got, but my clock came back an hour. Which means that the sun comes up before 8 now. Yay! I can get that. Well, at least for. We got 2 months. And it's gonna get worse and worse and worse. We went over this last year too. I hate the losing sunlight in the morning. It pisses me off. I don't care about the sun at night. Set it back another hour. If I'd put me on Central, I went over this. When I first moved down here, I put myself on Central Standard Time for a little while. Because it's closer to the, you know? Like even in November, this isn't the amount of sun that should be up at 7. This is the amount of sun that should be up at 6. And if I lived like 100 miles to the west of here, that's what it would be. It's a little bit further than 100 miles, but it's not very far to get to the central time zone. I'm on the wrong side of the split here. I should have moved to. How far can I? I should have moved to the outskirts of Montreal. And I bet that by the time I'm dead, that's where I'm gonna end up. I gotta wait till the bus service gets good enough that I can take the bus into Montreal. No, for real. There's this spot of Quebec that's like on the very eastern part of the. Okay, so Montreal is an island. Montreal is where the Ottawa River meets the St. Lawrence River. Right? So we think of Ontario as being in the area between the Ottawa and the St. Lawrence. But there's actually a little spot of Quebec. And that little spot of Quebec is actually extremely annoying to me. Because if that little spot of Quebec didn't exist, then I could move to Montreal, Ontario, essentially. And live there and exist in Montreal. But I can't go to Montreal because I live on Ontario assistance. And I'd have to cross the provincial boundaries. I'd have to find a way to live in Quebec for 5 years. I think that's the rule. And that's probably never going to happen. So, but if I can wait long enough that Montreal urbanizes bigly enough, it'll be the best urban area ever. And if it moves in that direction, it doesn't. All the development moves north because it's the Quebec nationalist thing, right? They want to go further into the into the heartland of Quebec, and kind of avoid moving south. Both in the sense that they don't want to move towards Ontario, and in the sense that they don't want to move towards the United States. That's the other thing about living right there in that specific spot, is I'm like 10 miles from the border to the U.S. Right? Montreal is basically on the U.S. border. Ottawa is not far from the U.S. border either, but I mean you've got to get in a car to go, right? You could get to the States basically from Montreal. In fact, I think there's a bridge that goes from Montreal to the States. Don't quote me on that. Yeah, that would be like if there was a little bit. If I was born 100 years from now, that's probably where I'd end up. Anyways, it's not almost 8. It's almost 7. Even though it's really almost 8. When am I gonna take my pills? I normally take my pills at 8. I have to take them at 7:30. I haven't done anything. I just sat on my ass for a few minutes. Trump's ducking shots there. Listen, at this point, if they're gonna kill him, they'll wait until he wins first. Wins. Because that's what they want, right? Is they want Pence, and then once they put Pence in, they can make Cruz the VP. I'm not saying they're going to kill him. I'm saying that if they're going to kill him, they'll wait. Like it would be pointless to kill him now. right? They'll wait until they win. They'll wait until they rig it first, and then they'll kill him. If we do end up with Donald Trump in office, or he wins the vote, then the I guess what is it? Is it 2 months or 3 months? The period between November 8th and the inauguration at the beginning of January. If I was Donald Trump, I'd go hide in a bunker somewhere, because you can be sure that there are people that are going to want to take him out. And I'm starting to feel totally trolled by that ABC CIA tracking poll. Those fuckers, they've got me. They hooked me here. See, here's the thing. The last time they did this, I fell for it. That was in the summer. I don't remember exactly when it was. I was incredulous. I didn't believe it, but I fell for it initially. Then I looked a little closer, and I realized that it was bullshit. They were trying to pull one over on us, right? And I called it, and it's here. What the aggregates and polls record is that Clinton had a big lead, and then it dipped, and then she had a big lead again. I reject that. I think she had a big lead the whole time, and that when they told us that it got close, it was just media trying to make a dime off clickbait, basically. Clickbait. So when they tried it again, it was, fool on me if I fall for it, right? And I pointed out the problems, right? Now this is why this is hard to believe. But they doubled down on it, right? They didn't let up. So you start seeing these signs that suggest this is more than a cash grab. That maybe something is mobilizing behind the scenes here, and that they're telling you this, and they're lying to you, and they're expecting you to fall for it because this is what they're doing, right? I don't know. Maybe I was seeing things. Or maybe good sense won in the end, right? Maybe they planned to rig it and then pulled back. But the tightening that I thought was bullshit from the start seems to be unraveling. Seems. I don't know. They seemed invested in this. We'll see what happens. I just want to be a little more clear about what I'm thinking long term. You'll see people talk about demographics, Hispanics this and white working class that, but they don't talk about culture and how shifts in demographics can be broken by cultural assimilation. It's less that I want to erase the prevailing story and rewrite it, and more that I want to integrate this different aspect to it. So why are Arizona and Nevada trending bluer, right? Maybe, is it because they're Hispanic? Or you're seeing more Hispanic people there? Maybe. Or is it because the white liberal culture in California is moving west? That there's a cultural expansion there? I would suggest that the question is an error, that the answer is both. The point I'm getting across is that you shouldn't just be thinking about immigration. These states are becoming more like California in a cultural sense as much as they are becoming more Hispanic. And in a sense, it's kind of, you can't really separate these ideas, right? And that should be expected because Californian culture has been very successful. If you live in Nevada or you live in Arizona, are you going to look at, the Midwestern states and say that's what I want to be more like? Are you going to look at Texas and say you're going to look at California? That's where that's the culture that you're going to aspire to because they're successful. And likewise, what you're seeing in Virginia and North Carolina isn't just about migration southwards or about black voter turnout. The culture is changing. The northeastern culture is spreading south. If you live in Virginia or you live in North Carolina, and you see, I think the internet probably has a lot to do with it, but you see how successful these people here are, and then you see how unsuccessful these people over here are, who are you going to want to be more like? You're going to want to be more like the successful people. And the culture is going to change to reflect that. Unfortunately, the opposite is happening in Ohio and Iowa, which are deindustrializing, which are re-ruralizing, and they're being swallowed by the rural Midwest. As the economy is changing, the culture is changing. Okay, and it's not just Western Pennsylvania, it's Western New York too, right? It's a deindustrialization all the way up through there. But it's not any more likely to swing Pennsylvania anytime soon. You could look at New York and say that the same thing's happening there. Nobody thinks New York's going to swing. And really, the numbers may be a little bit closer in Pennsylvania, but fundamentally, Pennsylvania is not going to swing anytime soon, okay? Ohio and Iowa, on the other hand, are probably lost to the Democrats for the near future because they're deindustrializing. They're becoming rural Midwestern states. Iowa probably always was. Ohio is now. Okay? I think the Midwest, though, was chaotic, and that it's an error to assign it a single trend. Those two states may be falling down. I think maybe some of the other, the racism. I'm not suggesting that Missouri or Kentucky are becoming less racist. I'm just pointing out that because there's no longer a black guy there, racism is going to be less of a factor. Okay? I still think Kentucky and Missouri are going to be closer than any polling or modeling is projecting because they're doing it all wrong, but I'm suggesting that Ohio and Iowa are red for the near future. Isn't that a contradiction? It's only a contradiction if the trend is monolithic. Rather, what I'm suggesting is that you're going to see, I think that these are the swing states of the future. Kansas, Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee. This is where you're going to see the swing states come up as the coasts become more solidly blue. Those are the new swing states, if they matter. If the coasts stay blue, you're going to end up with a Democrat in the White House for the next 100 years, right? But those are the states that are going to matter if they matter. They might not matter. I think you see what I'm saying. I think what's going to happen, it's going to take a while to settle down. We're going to need at least one post-Obama cycle before we can really measure, what has changed here. But don't be surprised if it's a lot less profound in the long run than anybody thinks. I'm sorry, but I don't think that the white racist vote in these regions, I don't think that it's a permanent cultural shift. A shift. Those areas were always racist, right? And I just think that when you take the black man out of the office, then their focus of hate will shift. That said, I don't really know the local politics of the region well enough to be able to say anything about this, but if there's a city in Missouri with a black mayor, or a city in Kentucky with a black mayor, then what's going to end up happening is the focus of hate is going to shift from the president to the local politicians. And it's going to be expressed there, right? But, if the Democrats run white politicians at the highest levels for the near future, I think that you're going to see that racial component of the political, decision-making process in those regions fall down. And it's going to be really unpredictable how exactly it is that settles, right? But that's you've got to balance out the deindustrialization with the expansion of the liberal class, the liberal business class, and all these kinds of things, right? And it's not. I just think it's wrong to suggest that these areas are becoming solidly Republican, that it's moving in one direction. There's that's a trend that's happening, but there's counter trends happening as well, and it's not clear to me how that's going to actually work out. I think these trends are more monolithic, right? That's moving that way, that's moving that way, that's more monolithic. This is more chaotic, right? Just wanted to clarify that point. Okay, we got two polls released today, NBC and ABC. Same spread. Let's talk about them, okay? So the NBC and ABC polls released today have the same spread, but I like the way that the NBC poll is reporting a lot better because it is not distributing the undecideds. Believe it or not, the NBC poll is still picking up a good 5% undecided at least. Now this is important because of where it's placing Trump. As mentioned, I think we can calculate a maximum level of Trump support in the high 30s or very, very low 40s. And if you look at the raw ABC data before the undecideds are distributed, you're no doubt going to see Trump knock down to that more reasonable support level as well. The ABC poll is still inflating Trump's number. And I'm still not cherry picking because this is methodological. That said, I'm going to have to parrot something Silver has been pointing out for weeks. My analysis belongs to the early part of the cycle. This is far too late for undecided voters. These undecided voters should not exist a few days before the election. And the fact that they do indicates that there's a lot of volatility that gives Trump a chance he otherwise should not have. Why aren't people committing? I've pointed out the possibility that voters may be afraid to admit they're voting for the racist, but is that any more likely than that they're afraid to admit they're voting for the openly corrupt candidate? Is embarrassment over Trump really higher than embarrassment over Clinton? I think it's far more likely that the swing is at least not to Trump, based on the calculations I've done previously, to put Trump's maximum support levels where the NBC poll is already placing him. It could in the end be that most of the undecideds just don't vote, but that would contradict the numbers that we're seeing, which suggests that we have very high early turnout. I mean, if we have undecideds this late, shouldn't that tell us that we have low turnout? But we have record high turnout. So, I mean, I think there's a good reason to think the undecideds are going to actually vote. But I don't see, like, I'm having a hard time distributing them equally. So if the undecideds are at 6 to 7%, I can't assign more than 2 to Trump because that would exceed his maximum support levels, which have been fairly rigorously built. That means those undecideds are probably mostly swinging to Clinton and reconstructs a much larger lead. This is implicit reasoning, but I think it's probably pretty right. Okay, it would be different if Trump was polling lower amongst decideds, then you'd be able to distribute them a little bit more. But if he's already at what is seen as a reasonable maximum point, then there's nothing else to do. Even if in the end most of them don't vote, you still distribute them the way that I'm suggesting, which is towards Clinton more. Just because otherwise you're getting Clinton at higher numbers than you can reasonably put him at. Sorry, otherwise you're getting Trump at higher numbers than you can reasonably put him at. However, if the undecideds are this high, this late, you also have to keep in mind that there is some possibility that it could mean third party, right? Those undecideds might be Johnson or Stein voters. The summary is that they're both reporting 5-point leads, but the NBC poll is reminding us that there's still a lot of volatility. I think that with Trump, the number that you're seeing at the NBC, which was 40, is probably more predictive, whereas the numbers for the other candidates are probably more floaty still. And I'm more likely to lean towards that volatility being an underestimation of support for Clinton. That doesn't mean I'm right, but it does mean that the volatility... Silver's model is right in that sense, okay, that there is a lot of volatility. I don't think it's right in the way it's assigning the volatility, but it's right in pointing it out. Okay, it's 7 o'clock at night, 12 hours since we spoke last. I took my batteries out of the charger a little early because we have an answer on phase 1 of our science experiment here, which is that this battery is no good. So we tested for that. At the very least, this battery is no good. Hopefully, I can find another pair in here that's good, but this one is not good. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to pop you over here, I'm going to pull you over here, and I'll put a little piece of tape on one of them, and I'll have to test it with those two, and then with that one and that one. Hopefully I get a good one. If we don't, I don't know. I'm thinking that what I'll probably do with that one is I'll leave it for the keyboard, because the keyboard turns itself off, and you have to change the batteries very infrequently, and the truth is I never use it anyways. I'm hoping that what I got in here is enough to last me until those go. If not, we might have to stop a little early. What have I done all day? I spent the first half of the day doing, well, I told you that I wanted to do a little bit of, I told you I wanted to watch a vlog and then move over into the other room. Instead, what I ended up doing for the first half of the day was I ended up shaping my discography up. So it was bureaucratic stuff. And that lasted until noon. And then I did watch all 3 vlogs. I had way too many reacts to get up. I said I was going to try and cut that out, but it's a fucking election. And then I did some reciting. So the first half of the day was spent doing... We're not going to bother doing a run through with it because it'll come up as I go. But I made a bunch of stuff public that was private previously. I created shells for records I haven't started yet, or EP singles I haven't started yet. I just planned out the next week or two worth of work as it needed to be done. Partly because I'm still not feeling 100%. I'm still fighting with the funny air. The window's been open all day, and it's going to be open all night. I'm not playing with that. Like I said, I felt a lot better when I woke up. We had a few more days worth of nice weather. If I don't get a response from my landlord by tomorrow, we're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to march upstairs and knock on the guy's door. And what I'm thinking, probably the first thing to do is to get a. He is actually required by law to install a carbon monoxide detector. The carbon monoxide detector is probably also a natural gas detector. So if we can get a carbon monoxide and natural gas detector in here, then that will tell me if I have a leak or not. If that's the case, then they'll have to fix the leak. If there's not a leak, then I'll have to figure something else out for the source of the headaches and the air issue that I'm getting. Like I say, all I know is that when I open the window, I feel better, right? And that there is a smell, right? So yeah, I mean, today it seemed kind of. I also did quite a bit of just ranting about the election today. So I spent the whole day in front of the computer. That's what I'm trying to say, or at least the first half of the day in front of the computer. Can I pull? I have the appointment tomorrow at 2:00 in the afternoon. I'll probably want to get a couple of hours of sleep in the morning, but I think I'm awake enough that I can be awake for a bit longer. I'm going to do the second phase of this. The reason why I'm stopping to talk right now is because I just swapped my batteries, and I wanted to point out with the science experiment. But let's talk a little bit about what I did this morning. I think that's a good way to start this. Just so that I have something to put up here that's topical. Where's my post here? Okay. So, I created a shell for the Skinny Puppy remix. We got Inri 17, which is what we talked about the other day. I created a shell for the Skinny Puppy remix record, The Souls That Create. I created a shell for there's an Offspring single, an Offspring remix. There's not going to be a single for it, but it's going to show up on the remix record at the end of 1999. So it's just the shell for it. In 18, 19, 20, those are the three singles, and they're empty right now. The record is in 21. I made the first 9 tracks public and replaced the audio for the ones that have vocals that don't anymore. I made public, they were already public, but labeled 22, which is in rejected, label 23, which is in remixed, and label 24, which is in reclaimed. I redated them to the end of January instead of the end of February, and kind of planned it a little bit about the end of period 1.3. When that comes up, and also I moved I had the tracks from In Remake loose. I moved them back onto the record, and then I made the record public, except for the ones that haven't been released yet, which are still private. And then so that's the remnants of period 1.2. It's what? How many more things? 18, 19, 20, 21. So 4, and then 22, 23, 24. Okay, so it's 7. Yeah, 7 more releases to complete, and then I'm on to period 1.3, which I don't believe I'm going to do anything for except listen and write up liner notes for and republish. So I was planning that out. That's what I did this morning. And this afternoon, it was a combination of ranting about the election, watching the vlogs for the last couple of days, and at the very end I did some reciting. So now I'm going to close this down, and I'm going to get the editing process for the last couple of days back up, and then I'm going to get something to eat, and then I'm going to finally get to what I wanted to do today, which is close in Re-17, so long as my head cooperates with me. If I end up with a headache, so I'll have to fall asleep. We'll find out. Well, I used the stove 2 days in a row, and the place didn't blow up, so either I'm lucky, or the leak is very much localized in the bathroom. Let's hope that that's the case. And if it is, I have a new tactic here. I'm tired of having the windows open. So instead what I'm doing is I'm going to close the bathroom door and leave the windows open in the bathroom. If I start smelling shit out here, I'll adjust. But my nose tells me it's coming from in the bathroom, so that's how I'm gonna behave. How's my head? It could be better, but it could be anything too. I haven't smelled any gas all day. In fact, I doubt the heater's on because it's been warm out. So, like no gas all day, but my head didn't really come back. So, I don't know. Am I going to be awake much longer? I'm going to try. We'll find out.